Hey guys, so an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with another Lucian supplementary guide, and in the last one when I was talking about the top builds that Lucian players used, I was referencing like a Navori build that you could go to as well if you want a lot of ability haste or a lot of quick dashes at the beginning, and I did mention that I would be testing it out and letting you guys know how it goes. So here I am to deliver, and this is of course the build. So I'm going to go through the build really quickly and talk a little bit about the pros and cons of this build. So first up, this is kind of my variation of the build that looks something like this. Like there was a build where you start off with your IE and then you go into Solari and Navori, or you can do it the other way around. But personally, I think that this order makes the most sense. So I'm not a fan of starting off with IE because with IE you get the extra crit damage right at the beginning, but you only have 25% crit rate. So I think that this is a very expensive item for a first item, which doesn't really give you a lot because this item kind of scales with crit because it increases your crit damage. So I don't think it really makes sense as a first item in like 90% of situations. So I prefer to go for Navori first item, which at least gives you somewhat more value. It sort of has the same issue with IE, which is that your crit attacks reduce your non-ultimate cooldown by 20% of the remaining cooldown. So basically, it also scales with crit because the more crit you have, the more cooldowns you're gonna get back. But at least number one, it's cheaper, and number two, it has more like value at the beginning, just getting a little bit of extra cooldown reduction in my opinion. So I start off with Navori giving me 45 AD, crit and ability haste, and of course the Death Strikes passive, which we've just gone through. And then we go for second item IE, which of course again it's more AD, more crit, and more crit damage. So now when you have two items, you're gonna have 50% crit. Now this allows both of these items passives to be a little bit more effective. And of course, boots, we go for defensive boots with generally stasis. You can go for like Proto Belt or QSS if you prefer as well. And then we go into Solari Charge Blade. Now Solari Charge Blade, when you hit the Solari Charge Blade and you hit 3 items is where you become incredibly strong, because this gives you again another 20 ability haste, 40% attack speed, which is not too important, but importantly you get 25% crit. So this has two effects. The first thing is it puts you at 75% crit, which allows the Death Strikes to prop a lot more often. And secondly, you already have 15 ability haste. Here you have another 20 here. Combined with the Death Strikes passive, when you hit 3 items, you're going to have more ability haste than with the Manamune build. So Manamune build is probably stronger on 2 items, but this crit build is stronger on 3 items, the Navori crit build at least, not the one without the Storm Razor. You also of course get the passive where every skill cast you get a stack, and you can consume the stack on hit to of course deal extra magic damage, which can crit, and by which point you have 75% crit, so that probably happens pretty often. And then for our armor penetration item, we go for Cyrilla's Grudge, which of course gives you the armor pen, attack damage, again more ability haste. So again, when you reach like 4 items, you're gonna have even more ability haste than the other build, which involves going non-ability haste items as your last couple of items. And then you're gonna have the IC passive, of course, which combos with your ultimate to make sure you can pretty much hit your ultimate all the time unless they flash out of it. And finally, we go for the Bloodthirster, which of course gives you the physical vamp, the shield, as well as putting you to 100% crit and more AD. So the slight problem I found with this build is that for some of my other builds, like for example the Storm Razor build, I like to go for an early Vamp Scepter to get a little bit more lifesteal. However, with this build, because of the nature of how you're going for Navori Quick Blade's first item, you generally want to rush crit as much as possible. So you generally don't want to build the Vamp Scepter early, because the Vamp Scepter doesn't actually give you any crit at all. It gives you physical Vamp and AD. So because of that, you generally go Navori into IE into Solari Charge Blade right away. You don't build Vamp Scepter earlier, which means you have very little lifesteal because you only have Hunter Vampirism for lifesteal, and that's kind of, it could be an issue for some people, and personally I'm kind of fine with it, but I would rather have Vamp Scepter than not. And of course you get your 100% crit only on last item because you're building Cyrilla's Grudge, which for me is an essential Lucian item in my opinion, so I don't quite have a problem with that. Small side note is that because you have Navori first, i.e. you generally want to build BF Sword first, but because you have the Navori Quick Blades, building Cloak first is not too bad on IE either. So runes and spells, this one's real quick, real easy. Of course, Kraken Slayer, Lucian procs it really easily with his passive. Hunter Vampirism for the lifesteal, which you are severely lacking in terms of this build until you reach your last item. Bone Plating, of course, because it's really strong at the moment, blocking the first spell that you get hit by. Of course, the Hunter Titan and Nullifying Orb is also an option, but at the moment, Bone Plating is really strong. And finally, I like to go for Nimbus Cloak because we obviously don't need Hunter Vampirism, going for Navori first item. So I think Nimbus Cloak's probably the best item you can get in this slot. Sweet Tooth is if you so choose and prefer. Some people do like the Sweet Tooth. And finally, of course, we have the Flash and we have the Exhaust for our summoner spells. So now let's take a look at the gameplay itself. Okay, so here we have the gameplay, and this is a really interesting gameplay. Now, first up, for some reason I've landed myself in a low elo match. My Vi, who's a Vi top by the way, the Vi top, the Warwick jungle, and the Fizz are all in like plat, and I believe they're like plat 2, plat 3 at the highest. I don't even think there's a plat 1, and I'm in diamond now, which is pretty strange. Anyways, we get straight into the action with Soraka kind of walking up a little bit too far and getting chunked for like 2/3 of her health, which is a really good start for me and my team. Now on the looking at the post match, it turns out that the Soraka and the Zed was also plat, but still the other 3 people were like emerald and diamond, so really strange matchmaking from Riot as usual. But you know, we can't really choose the matches that we get, we can only play our best in the matches that we get. So knowing there's 3 plats on my team, generally I would assume that they are a little bit worse just based on their rank. Of course, this may not necessarily be true. It could be someone who doesn't have time to play, etc. But we can already see that within the first minute, Vi gets first blooded, so that's not a good sign at all. So I'm in the mindset of, you know, I'm probably gonna have to be the one to carry my team, so I'm playing like extra well and extra careful. Not that in a regular match you shouldn't do that anyway, because you should be playing your best at every match in the first place, but I guess you could just say it's sort of a little bit more of a hidden pressure to perform better. Anyways, here I get a couple of good cues here, and here we get the Varus exhaust. So now, these 2 exchanges that we've just had with the Varus and the Soraka are crucial. That level 1 where we ambush the Soraka caused Soraka to pop her heal, and this dash in on Varus caused him to pop his exhaust. So they both still have flash, but they both don't have the other summoner spell. Now since I have priority, I spot the fight going on for the skull, so I'm here to rotate. I force Rengar's flash as well. Honestly, I think we could have won that fight, just that Warwick chose to fight Rengar right next to the pixel brush. If they fought anywhere else, I think he could have survived long enough for me to get there and possibly help him out, but because he fought right next to the bush, Rengar had very easy bush jump resets. Either way, we at least blew his flash, and flash on Rengar is a really important spell. So blowing everything from the Varus and the Soraka is really crucial, because we do want to get a kill on them in lane to get ourselves ahead. So with that in mind, I'm not pushing out the wave at all. I'm letting the wave push into me to force them to come closer to my tower, where we can try to look for a kill. They both still have flash, but I still have flash and exhaust, and so does my Nami, so we can definitely flash to follow if need be. Soraka's silence is out, that's a crucial cooldown. Nami hits the bubble, so I dash straight on in, use my full combo on Soraka. I'm gonna flash forward to finish off the kill on Soraka, and although we take a tower shot and a bunch of damage from Varus, it doesn't really matter because we get the kill on Soraka. And very crucial point to note here is 2 things. First thing is that Nami has Oblivion Orb, so we have a significant advantage in this 2v2, in addition to of course them lacking summoner spells. And the second thing is we went to focus Soraka instead of Varus. A common mistake a lot of people make in lane when trying to solo kill a Soraka lane is focusing the ADC, the Varus in this case. You always want to focus the Soraka, because Soraka cannot heal herself except when she hits her Q, which heals her really little and really slow. So you always want to focus the Soraka, because if you're focusing the Varus, Soraka can spam her heals onto the Varus, and even with the anti-heal, it doesn't really make sense to focus the guy who's getting healed rapidly compared to the guy who can't heal himself. So you always want to focus the Soraka first. This applies even to teamfights and etc. That's why it does make sense for like an assassin to like go for the Soraka, because that actually removes a major like threat to the team fight, even though it's like just a support or whatever, but it does actually make sense to do that. Here, I'm not quite sure what happened. Varus apparently just walks forward and ins. Nami manages to miss the wave on the Varus who isn't moving, and I take a free kill from Varus. Now, I actually thought he was inting here, but the issue is that his team is kind of hard winning. Like, the kill was like 1:5. I exhaust the Zed and try to finish up the kill. Nami ends up getting it with the auto attack. Here, Soraka makes the mistake of stepping up to help the Zed, ults herself, and Nami ends up picking up the kill on Soraka as well. So we're definitely getting ourselves quite far ahead. Unfortunately there I got 2 assists instead of 2 kills, but it's fine. Still better than not killing at all. Here Rengar comes in, and here unfortunately Nami makes the mistake of walking towards the bush, which allows Rengar to jump, reset, and get onto me. Varus comes over and hits the ult, and yeah, there I go. So in the meanwhile, Vi is pretty busy trying her best to feed the set. Vi currently now 0-4-0, and set is 5-0-0. You can see that my team here, the players are not doing too well. We have a 0-4-0 Vi, we have a 0-3-0 Warwick, who's flaming the Vi non-stop despite pretty much being just as bad as her. And we have a Fizz who for now is 0-0-0, so at least that's not too bad. Now I'm 2-1-2 with Navori and a longsword, still not really too strong yet, so not too much I can do. Of course, Lucian does have very strong early game even without having good itemization, so we are trying to take advantage of that. Here Soraka steps up, so here I try to chunk her out, and I try to blast her with the ulti. No chance to contest Dragon here. But however, a fight breaks out after the dragon actually dies, and here I spot the opportunity, so I'm dashing forward, flashing forward to try to finish off the kills. I get the kill onto Rengar. Soraka comes after her whole team is dead. She tries to flash out, but with the speed ups from Nami and my dash, I'm able to catch up to the Soraka and finish off the kill on her, also with the red buff slow. So here I'm picking up a plate. Zed is here, and we do believe he has ult, which in terms of the replay we can see that he does, so we're gonna have to just back off. But before we recall, we want to of course clear up this wave and push the wave into the enemy tower, and then we can proceed on to back. So now 4-1-2 start is pretty nice. However, so far we haven't encountered the set, who is the biggest problem we're gonna have in this game, quite clearly because he's 6-0 against the Vi who's 0-5-0. One thing that I realize a lot of lower elo players don't understand is, especially if you're playing solo lane and you die to like someone 2 times in a row, let's say, you can basically never fight them again. Even if you're in a winning matchup, let's say you're playing like Jax into Camille. Jax is a natural Camille counter, even if you're playing that matchup, but you manage to screw up and you die like twice as the Jax. The Camille is gonna win against you like almost 100% of the time, unless, for example, the Camille decides to go in on you when she has no flash, no ignite, and no ult, and you have all of those spells, and then she decides to 1v1 you. Yep, you can probably win against her 2-0 down, but aside from like that very niche situation, you're pretty much never going to be able to solo kill the Camille, or never going to be able to put any kind of significant pressure on her ever again, despite you having a winning matchup, at least in lane for now. In late game might be different, but in lane you can pretty much never fight her again. Here Varus makes the mistake of staying under tower, and he doesn't realize his tower is going down. We kill him, but we get collapsed on by literally the whole enemy team, including the Fed set. Thankfully they all focus Nami, and because of that I'm able to escape with literally full health, thankfully for me, and nothing too much happens, at least not yet. So here I was planning to recall, but my whole team goes in on the Fed set. Both people managed to ulti onto the set, but the Warwick ulti was cancelled by a very good Soraka silence, and set ends up picking up more kills, 8-0-1 now, with 8k gold. Now for some reason Soraka decides to try to interrupt my recall, but because of that she's going to pay the price. I'm gonna ult her down and finish off the kill like so. Not quite sure what the Soraka was thinking there, but because of that we can definitely pick up our IE and possibly other items as well. So if you are the Vi in this situation, 0-5-0, you should never be 0-5-0 in the first place. The moment you hit like 0-2, you basically just need to stand under your tower and stop fighting. The only way that they can kill you then is if the top laner and the jungler decides to dive you, which will happen of course from time to time, but generally you can minimize your deaths. You have no reason to walk out and just get killed non-stop like this Vi on repeat now. She's like 0-5 and 0, and pretty much the set has like close to double of her goal. Like there's nothing you can really do against him even when you were at 0-2 and 0-3 in the first place. So there is no real reason to feed him. You just need to minimize your deaths, minimize how fat the enemy gets, and try to hope your team can carry you instead. Speaking of which, Set gets overconfident, and I get the 1k shutdown off of him, which is huge for me. Rengar gets caught in the bubble, I burst him down as well. I then proceed to get the kill onto Soraka, and then we also finish off her, and Zed tries to go in, but he ults the wrong person, at least in my opinion. I think he should have ulted me, but he did not. So because of that, we managed to easily finish the fight, and we get a very clean ace. Of course, Fizz and Warwick did die. Fizz is now 0, 3, and 4, so he's not doing too well either. Now we have 1, 5, and 1 Vi, and a 2, 6, and 4 Warwick. It's a team that needs to be carried pretty badly, so as I said, I'm playing pretty cautiously and trying my best not to make any mistakes, because I know that I'm the main win condition of my team, but I also know that my team definitely doesn't know how to play around me. So because of that huge fight, we get enough gold to get our entire Solari Charge Blade. In this case, I'm going for the Solari Charge Blade first, before going for like the Stasis or whatever other enchant, because I really feel that we need that 3 item power spike, which I've talked about in the build section, that is so crucial for Lucian. So here, I'm just pretty much waiting around because the dragon is going to be spawning soon, but my Vi and my Warwick are not in position to contest. And here my face is getting caught. Seeing if I can help him out here. We saw Set use his E already, so it's safe to dash in on him. Set kind of getting caught out of position. He already used the W as well, flashes out, and Fizz and Warwick hit ulti on him, and we are able to lock him down and get the kill. Another 500 gold in our pockets, because obviously he had a lot of shutdown gold, which still accumulated to the next kill. Here Rengar tries to go in for a steal, but goes in way too early, and he simply just dies. We do secure the Infernal Dragon, and we all get hit by Varus ult, but thankfully doesn't quite matter. Here we're going back onto the lane, and we're going to clear up the minions, and we're just going to recall and probably pick up our stasis now. The couple kills we got in the Dragon Pit plus the minions should be more than enough for that. We do, and we start building towards our Serelda's Grudge, of course. So Serelda's Grudge is going to be really useful against the Set in particular, because Set is really tanky with that Hullbreaker and Divine Sunder, in addition to his native tankiness due to his W shield. But yeah, so here we have the Rift Herald up. It's about 20 seconds away from despawning, but Set is in the area kind of guarding the Rift Herald, so we can't really do very much. I'm going to instead go over here to pick up the wave. As usual, picking up minions wherever we can. Now that the Set has left the area though, we have about 10 seconds out from the Rift Herald despawning. We're going to quickly try to sneak the Herald while we can see these Soraka and Set on vision. So here we can see they're probably rotating, but we burst down the Herald really quickly. Warwick secures the Herald, Rengar ults a little bit too late, and Warwick takes a very dangerous path, but it turns out he was just kind of baiting the Rengar, or at least it turned out that way. So he ults the Rengar, and I instantly one-shot him with the help of the Fizz. And now we can do a Herald play in the mid lane with the Rengar dead. Set is alone to defend. He does have the Hullbreaker, so he's really tanky. Zed ults the Nami for no good reason, in my opinion. Nami only gets chunked for about half her health. Set again tries to 1v3, but this is a very common like issue with people who get fed. Like the Set started at 8 and 0, he's now 8 and 3. So sometimes when you're fed, you think that you can fight like 1v2s and 1v3s, but you really can't. Like the Set there could not and should not have taken that fight. And now even though he's fed, he's now sort of beginning to feed. I've gotten a 1.5k shutdown from the Set in total, and then killed him again. So at this point you can see I'm at 14k gold, and the Set's now at 11k gold, and a lot of that is because of that huge shutdown that I got from him. So here the red buff is up, and the Warwick is in the area. I'm waiting for him to kind of take the red buff, so in the meantime I'm gonna farm the Crux and wait for him to go for that red buff, and then I can farm the minions while he's doing that red buff, and then I will be able to take that red buff through the buff sharing as well. Help him out with one auto attack, start channeling my recall, no time wasted. I'm able to pick up the red buff and recall, get myself mana, as well as but getting both components of my Seralda's Grudge. I'm close to completing Seralda's Grudge, like 100 gold out or so I'm here trying to desperately find some kind of farm to complete my Seralda's Grudge. Here I'm just farming the wolves. Set and Soraka again are in the mid lane. Soraka gets caught by a bubble. I dash forward with the help of Nami's Imperial Mandate, and again it's worth it to ult to kill the Soraka because she provides a lot of value for the team. And again the set gets caught, goes from 8-0 to now 8-4, so he's not doing too hot. I managed to back and pick up the Seraldas and as well as a longsword, of course going towards our final item of the Bloodthirster. With the Set and Soraka dead, it's a good time to go for Baron. Of course we do have Rengar still up, so we gotta be cautious of that. Here we see an embarrassing dash into the wall from me instead of over the wall. Rengar has ulted, so he knows we're on the Baron. We do have Control Ward in the pit though, and here the Rengar jumps in again way too early. I'm gonna instantly burst the Rengar down, get out of the range of the Varus ult. And here, while my Warwick is busy finishing off the Dragon, I'm just gonna finish off the Varus as well as the Zed. Of course, at this point, I'm super fed, 16k gold, and there is literally no one even close to me. The closest is Set at 12k gold, but I'm super duper fed at this point of the match. Here I try to help out my Warwick by ulting the Set / Soraka, but nothing really happens here. The whole enemy team is dead aside from the two of them, and Vi is actually making herself useful by split pushing, using her Hullbreaker and Baron buff, so we're gonna get an inhibitor in the top lane. And off of this, we're gonna have a lot of pressure in the top lane. So again, especially as an ADC, especially needing to carry your team, you want to get farmed anywhere you can until you reach full build. So here I'm at 17k gold, have the Vam Scepter, almost can get my Bloodthirster. I'm trying to find farm wherever I can. Here Rengar gets caught 1v1 against the Vi, who has Hullbreaker, so she's tanky. Set comes in 1v4 and he dies as well. And then we spot the Soraka over the wall. So using that, Fizz hits the ulti, Soraka gets destroyed, and Set turns up he was also in that bush. He tries to ult out, he tries to do something about the situation. There's nothing he can do, and because of that we are able to pretty much just end the game right here. Only Varus is left to defend. Here I'm using the Baron to push down the mid lane. My team is pushing down the top lane, which already is missing an inhibitor, and with that we can simply just end the game. Using the Baron minions, nothing Varus can do to clear the wave, and there we have it, the hard carry of the team, and better than 100% of Lucians with the new Navori build. So I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.